Hello, my name is Jaden, and welcome to my channel. I am a Bible-believing street preacher based in New York City, and today's study is going to be on the Nephilim. All right, they're not called Nephilim; they're called giants. But on the video, I put Nephilim on the title because people on YouTube are so easy, and if you put Nephilim, they want to click on it, and they probably think this is about the Book of Enoch. By the way, the Book of Enoch is garbage, apocryphal nonsense. I'm going to be going over what Nephilim are, and basically, uh, this doctrine is very mysterious. There are parts of it I cannot answer, but I will give you the not the loopholes. I will give you the loose ends, and then maybe you can think about it or something. But to my knowledge, no one's able to figure out some of this stuff. But it is interesting now. This video will be under the playlist of the spirit world. So without further ado, let's get started. So what are Nephilim? All right, so let me just get this out of the way real quick. So these guys online are like, oh, the Nephilim, the Nephilim. Listen, what makes more sense to you? What's easier to understand? Nephilim or giants? Giants. Giants are easier to understand. All right, so this is just the word in Hebrew. I don't care what the Hebrew says. The word is giants. I speak English. If I go to you and I say, whoa, have you heard about the Nephilim? You're like, what? Yeah, you heard about the giants? Yeah, that makes more sense, right? All right, so what are the giants? We're going to go to Genesis chapter 6. Genesis 6. You need to have seen my angel video before you come and watch this one. I neglected to mention that because that's going to explain a lot of stuff about angels before you come and watch this one. Genesis 6. Genesis chapter 6. Okay, now here's the passage. And it came to pass, verse 1, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men that they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose. Verse 4, there were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them, the same became mighty men which are of old, men of renown. All right, now, because the topic is very confusing and there's a lot of loose ends, I'm going to give you something interesting for you to consider in terms of prophecy. But let's start with this. So you should have seen my angel video. It said that the giants, they are the offspring. They are the offspring of what? Of the sons of God. Of the sons of God. Now, if you know this, you know that the sons of God here is not a reference to Seth's kids, like the Schofields notes say. It's a reference to the angels and that they were having kids with the women. All right. So, like I showed you in my angel video, angels appear like men. They appear like men. Now, you know that because how they're going to have kids with women if they're sexless? That doesn't make any sense, right? So they appear like men. Now, okay, so what's the big deal? Well, the thing is, the mystery is, well, how exactly can an angel, who is a spiritual creature, have a child with a woman, which is a physical creature, right? That's the strange thing. So, what's interesting to consider is that you ever seen those TV shows where the woman gets in a relationship with, like, I mean, I can't think of one, but the woman gets in a relationship with like some dude from outer space, and then the guy, in order for him to stay with her forever, he has to lose his powers because he's like an alien creature or whatever, and they can't be together if he has his powers or something like that, right? Dude, they're getting that from this. Go to the book of Jude. So what was it specifically that God damned everybody in Genesis 4? A lot of people think it's just for the evil that they were doing. And the evil they were doing was pretty bad. But it was more than that. It was more than that. It was that the angels committed the cardinal sin of leaving heaven and then having children with the women. Now, I'm going to show you something really mysterious. Look at the book of Jude, well, there's no chapter. The book of Jude and verse 6. And the angels which kept not their first estate, but left their own habitation, hath he reserved in everlasting chains under darkness unto the judgment of that great day. Okay, hold on a minute. So it says that the angels left their first estate. Well, the angels, the sons of God, where is their first estate? The third heaven. Now, here's the thing. When Eve got the blood in her body, if you've been studying my videos, you understand that the blood in your body came from your ancestors, but that Adam and Eve, they got it when they ate the fruit. They ate the vine tree fruit. That's what turned their water circulatory system into blood. Well, the issue is, if they are angels and they are not men, how did they get the blood? Mysterious, right? So this goes into one of those weird doctrines of, okay, well, if she got the blood orally, then that means that the angels must have gotten it orally. So maybe they're like vampires and that they bloodsucker, they took the blood from Eve and they got it that way. I have no idea. This is one of the parts of the doctrine I can't explain to you, but it's there. They had blood. How do you know they had blood? Stay in Jude, keep a tab on Jude, and go to Psalm 82. Psalm 82. You know they had blood, and I'll show you why. Besides the fact that they had kids. Psalm 82. And verse 1. God standeth in the congregation of the mighty. He judgeth among the gods. What the commentators do is they say the gods here are Israel judges. No. When Jesus says in the New Testament, is it not written in your law, I have said ye are gods? He's not talking about this verse. He's talking about Exodus 22, where it says, do not revile the gods. That's a reference to Israel's judges, not this. It says God is standing in the congregation of the mighty. Is God standing in the congregation of Israel judges? No, the gods here are the angels. Because I showed you in the last video that they're called the sons of God. And you know what the devil told Eve? Ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. Well, who are the gods that know good and evil? Are the Israel judges? No, they're the angels. The angels are the gods. That's why the scripture says in the New, who wouldn't know this? The scripture in the New Testament literally says there is but one God, but many gods. So the reason why you weren't supposed to make idols in the Old Testament is because the idols are the physical image of a god, an angel. And if you worship that, you're worshiping the devil. And that's what God killed them for. You're worshiping the demon. I'll put all the verses on the screen. I don't want to get too caught up in this. I'll put the verses on the screen of the video so you can check the references for yourself. Although the critics won't check it. The skeptical critics won't check it because they're hypocrites. God standeth in the congregation of the mighty, he judgeth among the gods. How long will ye, the gods, judge unjustly and accept the persons of the wicked? Selah. Well, this is telling you that the angels in the days of Noah were judges. How do you know this is talking about the days of Noah? Keep reading. Defend the poor and fatherless and do justice to the afflicted and needy. Deliver the poor and the needy and rid them out of the hand of the wicked. They know not, neither will they understand. They walk on in darkness, and all the foundations of the earth are out of course. There it is. Now you say, well, that doesn't say it's in the days of Noah. Yeah, but look at verse 6. I have said, ye are gods, and all of you are children of the Most High. The gods here are not talking about Israel. It's the sons of God. How do you know that? It says, all of you are children of the Most High, but ye shall die like men. That's not talking about a human being. Do I say to you, you're a man, but you're going to die like a man? What? No. Do I say you're cats, so you're going to die like a cat? No. You see, but ye are gods, but ye shall die like men. Well, who are the gods? The angels. They appear like men, but they're not men. So go back to Jude. Well, when did that happen? When he drowned them out. Go back to Jude. See, this is what I'm saying. This topic is deep. These guys online are talking about the Nephilim. They have no idea what the Nephilim are, supposedly. They're confused. They're going to the book of Enoch. The book of Enoch is Apocrypha. Jude, verse 6, and the angels which kept not their first estate, but left their own habitation. Well, whatever they did, they must have lost the spiritual power that they had because they were stuck down here. Well, if God was going to flood the planet, why didn't they just go zoom, fly out, right? They couldn't. Like I showed you in my last video on the angels are a spiritual body, or rather they're a spirit, and then they have a physical body that they can appear in. Well, whatever they did to get the blood orally, however they got it, they surrendered the spiritual nature to them. They surrendered this. They surrendered the spiritual nature, and it died. That doesn't mean they didn't have a spirit anymore. That's not what it means. It means that the spiritual nature in them died the same way it died in Adam. And since it died in them, how are they going to go back to heaven? They have a dead spirit. This is so mysterious. So they surrendered the spiritual side to them, and now it's almost like they're a car that has the outer shell, like the outer trunk and the windows and everything, but the inside is completely empty. It's kind of like that. They surrendered this spiritual side of them, and what happened to it? It died. It died. Why? Because they sinned against God. Now, Adam did not have superpowers. I don't think he did. He didn't have any superpowers, but he could go back up to heaven and up and down real fast. He couldn't do that, right? He was a human being. But the angels are spirit. They can appear in a body, but if you sin against God inside of time, remember, the spirits are not bound by time. They can go to eternity, and then when they come to earth and appear in a body, they're subject to time just like we are. Well, if the spiritual side of them dies the same way it died for Adam, they can't go back to heaven. They're stuck down here. Isn't that interesting? You'll only find that in a King James Bible. King James Bible. Oh, but it's just too archaic. I can't understand it. Dude. So what happens is that if the spiritual side of them died, then what happens? Well, they're left with this body. Now, what did God say he did to them? He drowned them out. He said, but ye are children of the Most High, but ye shall die like men. Right? God has many sons in the Bible. He has many sons, but you should have watched the angel video. The angels are called the sons of God. They are his created children. Created. Hebrews 1, are they not all ministering spirits? Angels are spirits before anything else. That's why I mentioned earlier about the TV shows where the guy is an alien or whatever, and then now he can't use his powers. He's stuck on Earth. Well, that's what this is. This is the angels came down from their third heaven. They came down from the third heaven, the angels. They came down, and then they somehow, now they're on Earth. And then when they're on Earth, well, they sinned against God by having kids with the women, and I'm going to show you what more they were doing. And then they surrendered this spiritual side to them that allowed them to do all the stuff that they do. And now what happens? Well, now he's just a man. Now he's just a man. But what happens? Well, they're just a man, but now that spiritual side of them, it's dead. It's dead. I'll put brown for dead. So then he says, you're children of the Most High, but ye shall die like men. That's supposed to be this way. See how strange that is? That's strange. Okay, now, what did God drown them out for? A lot of reasons. A lot of reasons. First of all, one of them is because they had children by the women. That's one of them. All right. Now, what did these women, what are the children that they had by the women, what did that produce? Giants. We'll get into the giants in a minute. Okay, what else did they do that God got so mad at the angels for? Now, God did drown out humanity with the angels too, don't get me wrong, but the reason he drowned everybody wasn't just because of what humanity was doing, it's what the angels were doing. Jude 7, so we're still on Jude. And the context, okay, so the verse 6 is the context about the angels leaving their first estate. Now, in verse 7, it says, even as Sodom and Gomorrah. So Jude is saying that what happened in verse 6 is as what happened in Sodom and Gomorrah. What happened in Sodom and Gomorrah? Let's keep reading. And the cities about them in like manner, giving themselves over to fornication and going after strange flesh, are set forth for an example. He's saying so that when the angels left their first estate, right, that what happened in that time is like what happened in Sodom and Gomorrah. Well, what were they doing in Sodom and Gomorrah? It said that they were giving themselves over to strange flesh. Okay, so you see this term right here, strange? In the Bible, the term strange means other. So when you read that there, strange flesh, it's other flesh. All right, let me ask you a really bad question. If the angels were sleeping with the women and they went after, or rather, I'll ask it this way. If the people of Sodom and Gomorrah were going after homosexuality, they were doing all that stuff, right? And it says that in Sodom and Gomorrah, they were going after strange flesh. Let me ask you a question. This is flesh. What is strange flesh? What's other flesh? Is there another kind of flesh? Yeah. Yeah, actually. Animals. The people in Sodom were practicing bestiality. That's Sodom and Gomorrah. They were practicing bestiality, dude. That's why God drowned out the angels. Now I'm going to get into an interesting point here. This is why in the Bible, fornication is a sin unto death, because it's not just sleeping around. It's in bestiality too. See that? It's confusion. Now, you know that. So what's interesting is that Jude said that the angels left their first estate and now they're going to be punished for what they did. Now, this is the main reason, but they were also practicing this. Because in the verse it said, even as Sodom and Gomorrah. So Sodom and Gomorrah is a picture of what they were doing back then. And what were they doing? They were bestiality. I'll write it again for you. See that? That's what they were doing. Now, you know what's interesting? This is the origin of where you get all that stuff in mythology about having a person that's half the body of a human and then the body of a horse. That kind of stuff. The Titans and the stuff in Norse mythology and all that stuff. The people like Baphomet having the legs of a goat but the body of a man but the head of a devil. That's where that stuff is coming from. The gods intermingling with the humans. Greek mythology is all about that stuff, man. All about that stuff. A supernatural god having a child by a human being that produces this mysterious, strong giant. That's where that's coming from. These guys are like, oh, the Nephilim. No, it's not what you think it is. The Nephilim are not these like 100 feet tall giants. That's not what it is in the Bible. So what are they? Let me show you. The Nephilim are not these like giant 100-foot tall buildings that are walking around like in Norse mythology. No, it's not like that with Odin and Thor. No. These guys just do that and they put the thumbnails with like the big titans so they can be like, oh, the Nephilim. No, that's not what it is. That's not what it is. 2 Samuel chapter 21. 2 Samuel 21. 2 Samuel 21. All right. 2 Samuel 21 and verse 20. And there was yet a battle in Gath, and there was a man of great stature that had on his hands 6 fingers, and on every foot 6 toes, 24 in number. And he was also born to the giant. All right, so here's the first detail. The giants are large men. I'm going to try to draw it very big for humor's sake. And it said that they had 6 fingers and 6 toes. Now, how tall were they? Should have the verse here. Go to 1 Samuel 17. 1 Samuel 17. Samuel 17. Notice how it said that he was a man of great stature. A man of great stature. We'll see how big great stature is. All right, we're going to look at the book of 1 Samuel 17 in verse 4. And there was a champion out of the camp of the Philistines named Goliath of Gath, whose height was 6 cubits and a span 6 cubits. Okay, now I had a lot of trouble trying to find out exactly what the measurement of this is, but he's definitely over 10 feet tall. He's over 10 feet tall, at least. So you got a 6 foot, you got 6 fingers, 6 toes, dude is over 10 feet tall. I mean, if you're 5'5", dude, that's a giant. That's a giant. Go look up on Google. Look up the tallest man in the world. Those dudes are huge. You look like a little mouse compared to those guys. That's a giant. That's what that is. Now, the mystery, another mystery is this. Okay, so God drowned out the angels, and he drowned out the men who were having those kids in the days of Noah, and then he restarted the bloodline again with Noah's kids. Okay, that's all fine and dandy. The issue is, why is there a giant alive? Goliath is here. In 2 Samuel, that chapter I showed you, it said that there was him and then there were 4 more born unto him. Okay, where did he come from? Didn't God drown out the angels? Mysterious, right? You ever think about those things? The angels couldn't hide underwater. How are they going to hide underwater? They lost the spiritual nature. They died like men. Now, there is one thing, though, that's really mysterious, is that there's a thing called the lost city of Atlantis. So the Philistines worship a god. His name is Dagon. Dagon. And this god, he's a fish. He's a fish god. You know what he is? He's half man, half fish. I did say they went after strange flesh. That meant everything. See what I mean? Now, this is the Philistines. Now, in 2 Samuel, it said that there was one there, and then 5 born unto him. But let's go back even further than that. In the book of Deuteronomy, this is even more strange. Look at Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy, chapter 2. This is more strange. Deuteronomy chapter 2. Look what Moses says. Deuteronomy chapter 2 and verse 20. That was also accounted a land of giants dwelt in the old time, and the Ammonites called them Zamzumims, a people great and many and tall as the Anakims, but the Lord destroyed before them, and they succeeded them and dwelt in their stead. Well, Moses is saying that in his time, a little bit before his time, there were giants there too. How did they survive the flood? Well, that's where you get the whole lost city of Atlantis stuff. Atlantis. That somehow they must have made a little underwater city to survive the flood. And that false fish god is the one that preserved them. And then when the flood was over, they came up from the bottom, and then up came the giants. Isn't that strange? See what I mean? Now, here's something else that's interesting. In 1 Samuel, go back to 1 Samuel 17. 1 Samuel 17. 1 Samuel 17. I'm going to show you more mysterious. This video is very mysterious. I don't have a lot of answers. I'm just showing you what's going on. 1 Samuel 17. So I want you to notice how many rocks David had in his hand when he went to go fight Goliath. It gives you the specific number. It's very interesting here. 1 Samuel 17 and verse 40. And he took his staff in his hand and chose him 5 smooth stones out of the brook. 5 smooth stones. Go to 2 Samuel. 2 Samuel 21. So you can read it for yourself. 2 Samuel 21. Why did he have 5 stones? Because look what it said in 2 Samuel 21 and verse 21. And when he defied Israel, Jonathan, the son of Shemaiah, the brother of David, slew him. These 4 were born to the giant and fell by the hand of David. Well, David had 5 rocks See, David is it's not as dumb as you think. David had 5 rocks. Why did he have 5 rocks? Because Goliath had 4 kids. He had 4 kids. That's why he had 5 rocks. Now, what is Goliath? He's a Philistine. So all the remaining giants come from the Philistines. So either there's something wrong with Ham's seed, or the angel somehow supernaturally was able to survive the flood. Now, how do you know that though? How do you know that though? Let me show you something interesting here. Very interesting here. Go to the book of Genesis, chapter 10. Genesis 11. This is supposed to be a fun video. It's not supposed to be too crazy. This is just one of those mysterious doctrines. Genesis 11, verse 1. And the whole earth was of one language and of one speech. And it came to pass, as they journeyed from the east, that they found a plain in the land of Shinar. Okay, so this is talking about Babel. Verse 4. And they said, go to and let us build us a city and a tower whose top may reach unto heaven. Let me ask you a question. Just think about this. Do you think our ancestors who were living 900 years were so stupid that they were going to try to build a tower to go past space into the third heaven directly? No, they're not that stupid. This is something very, very mysterious and interesting. So you have this tower called Babel. Now, I know what you know Babel means. Babel means confusion. Confusion. But did you know that that's what the Hebrew word means? Did you know that this word has a second meaning? Babel has a second meaning. It comes from Akkadian. Akkadian is the language of Babylon, the Chaldeans. You know what it means? Gate of the gods. Okay. Hold on a minute. Noah came from the days of Noah. What did they see? The angels doing all that weird stuff. Okay, now Noah has his kids, right, and his family. They were there. So when they come out of the boat, you don't think that they passed those stories on and on and on for years to come? No, of course they did, right? Now, the whole world was of one language, the gate of the gods. Where did they think the angels came from? Heaven. So then they have this thing called the gate of the gods. Who are the gods? The angels. Now, you know how I know? You know how you know this is true? Because in mythology, there's a building called Tartarus. Tartarus. It's a long building with hundreds of floors that goes up to the top. And do you know what the story of Tartarus is? The story of Tartarus is that there's a tower that you climb up. And at the top of the tower, there's a god that comes here. And what is the god's name? The god's name is Nyx. And the tower is supposed to reach up to heaven so that Nyx can be in landing range to come in and meet the humans. Where are they getting that from? They got to be getting it from here. Isn't that interesting? You see how much, the Bible is just a bunch of myths. No, the Bible is the origin of all this crazy stuff. If you saw the flood, if you were in the boat, you don't think you were telling your kids about it? It's just the Bible's the only record that it happened, the accurate record. Everything else is an imperfect, maladapted record of it. But every religion has a story about some worldwide flood. Go read Vance Farrell. He has all the scientific data that the flood happened, that the scientists don't want to show because it's embarrassing, right? They're getting this from somewhere. You know what I mean? Okay, now the last thing I want to go over, not going to be too long study, has to do with the days of Noah. Okay, the days of Noah. Go to the book of Matthew 24. Matthew 24. So what are the days of Noah? Well, I just spent the last 25 minutes talking about it. The days of Noah characterizes the period just before the flood came, right? Now, that period in time has a lot of different applications, right? But let me show you something that's interesting. Verse 36, but of that day, Matthew 24:36, but of that day and hour knoweth no man, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only. But as the days of Noah were, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be. For in the days that were before the flood, they were eating and drinking and marrying and giving in marriage until the day that Noah entered into the ark, and knew not until the flood came and took them all away. So shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. Okay, so here's something you got to be careful with. We are not in the days of Noah. Oh, listen for 2 minutes. Don't close the video. People don't know how to listen. We're not in the days of Noah. Now, when you read the signs here, this is a tribulation passage. However, we are seeing every single one of the signs in this passage. We are seeing that people are giving, eating, and drinking, and giving in marriage, and people don't care. We are seeing that the flood hasn't come, but then when it comes, people are going to get messed up. We are seeing these signs. But like I explained, there's a particular sign here that's not being mentioned by Christ that characterizes the days of Noah. What is that? The angels coming down to mingle with the sons of men. Go to the book of Daniel. We are in the preamble of the days of Noah. If you think it's bad now and we're in the days of Noah, you have no idea. It's going to get worse. Now, that's why I said that passage has double application. We're seeing the signs of Matthew 24, but we're not in Matthew 24 right now. And we're not going to be here when the tribulation happens, right? Daniel chapter 2. Prophetic passages, you can't limit them to the passage that they're in, but sometimes they have specific conditions that tells you that period is happening, right? So when you read Matthew 24 about those signs, wars and rumors of war, giving in marriage, pestilence and famine, that's all true, but we're not in that period. We're seeing the preamble of that period, which tells you that we're close to that period. You understand what I'm getting at? Okay, Daniel chapter 2. Now, notice how strange this is. It says in verse 41, and whereas thou sawest the feet, see that? And toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided, and there shall be in it of the strength of the iron. For as much thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay. Okay, I'm going to put a thing on the video to show you the references, but your body is made of clay. You were made of clay, right? So the miry clay here is a reference to humans. Now, you see how it says iron? Look how weird this is. Verse 43. And whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. Who are the they? Somebody is mixing themselves with the sons of men. Who is they? You don't refer to an animal as they. See how strange that is? Now, can you mix iron and clay together? No. That's a reference to the angels. They're not supposed to mix. You know what that means? That means in the tribulation period, you know what's going to happen again? It's called the days of Noah. The angels are going to come down and they're going to mingle themselves again. And everything that happened in Genesis will repeat just like it did. History ends the way it began. That's what's going on there. So you know what the TV media does? You have all these TV shows about the aliens coming down. We're going to help you out. Don't worry, humans. We're going to help you out. And they're going to mingle with the humans the way that the TV shows depict it. And the devil has been putting up all these TV shows to get people used to that idea. Because when it happens, they're going to accept it. Because these aliens are going to be supernatural aliens. And they're full of angels. See that? Strange doctrine. Strange doctrine. You won't hear any of this about these so-called YouTube channels about the Nephilim. That's not what the Nephilim are. They're just giants. They're just the son of the giants. But they missed all these extra details. Tribulation periods can be weird. So you know what's also interesting? If you properly saw my angel video, I showed you Hebrews 13, that some people have entertained angels unawares. Well, in the Old Testament, in Judges, Manoah was talking to the angel of the Lord, and he had no idea that that was an angel. But now, in the tribulation, Hebrews is an end times tribulation book. You're going to enter, if you're in the tribulation, you're going to entertain angels unawares because they look like men. Isn't that fascinating? That's an advanced revelation. You won't find that in any other Bible. Anyway, this was supposed to be a fun study. Pray you got a blessing. So, make the board available. Grace be to you all.